last week we have Ken Paxton. He's the Attorney General of Texas. He won the Republican primary runoff for the U.S. Senate. A massive move for him, but he's still Attorney General. He will be Attorney General until the end of January of this year. And he's still going to work as Attorney General. This is a press release from his office just recently. Attorney General Paxton takes legal action as part of sweeping investigation into corporate giants, including Bayer, for poisoning Texans through glyphosate contamination in food. This is the Attorney General stepping up where the Supreme Court and the Trump administration is now really dropping the ball. So let's go into this. What is he doing? What is he talking about? Well, if you're in Texas, you're in luck. He says, although the EPA prohibits the use of glyphosate as a desiccant on oats, which means when the oats are cut, they spray glyphosate on it so they dry faster. So you get a massive amount of chemicals. It says in the United States, major food companies source their oats from foreign countries where the practice is allowed. So they skirt that. They found a loophole. Oats are widely found in cereals, breakfast bars, and cookies, which make children particularly vulnerable to glyphosate harms. Paxton says this, quote, if any corporation is using regulatory loopholes to poison our children, poison our kids with glyphosate, we will find out and we will secure justice. My office is also investigating whether major food companies are complying with Texas law and whether consumers, especially parents, have been misled about the health claims of common food products marketed to their families. No corporation is above the law and no legal action will go unpunished. Ken Paxton, ladies and gentlemen. And we can see similar things happening in other states. Why isn't every attorney general doing this? Well, they could. They're not. Hopefully they will. But we have Surgeon General Joe Ladapo in Florida. He's doing his work there with Ron DeSantis to at least inform the public. This was his initiative to look at the glyphosate levels in bread and basically give that to the public so they can make the right decisions for their children and they can vote with their dollars and put out really, hurt the market share of people that won't take this glyphosate out of the food. Why is it important for children? Well, we know that MAHA is focused on the chronic disease, especially in children. But when it comes to glyphosate and crop chemicals in general, there's a 2025 study here. It really breaks it down, and it looks at these chemicals in children's food. This is the study here, and I want to read this excerpt. It really puts a finer point on it. They say children are particularly vulnerable to glyphosate exposure due to several physiological and developmental factors. They go on to say there are immature detoxification systems, including underdeveloped liver and kidney function. Children are less efficient at metabolizing and excreting toxic substances like glyphosate and its metabolite. But it also says children consume more food relative to their body weight compared to adults, which increases their dietary exposure to pesticides. So across the board, children, it's this flashing red light. You have to be careful with these toxins, with these glyphosate and crop chemicals, because the kids are bioaccumulating them faster, especially the ones that can't detox or that have immature livers and issues detoxing among just the regular children. And those kids eat the cereal. I ate it when I was a kid. They're eating the oats. They're eating the cookies. This is massive glyphosate. We have a lot of organizations, independent organizations, doing the testing on this. You can go to those organizations and find out what foods to buy. But the crop chemical conversation gets even bigger because when we're talking about toxification, we go back to what Ron Johnson was talking about. Cancer is a big problem in this country, and it's not just one thing that's happening. It's a synergistic effect of a lot of environmental issues, and it's probably genetic vulnerabilities that activate to these environmental issues. Iowa is a massive hotbed right now. There's a recent study that just came out, and it showed that in Iowa, you can see here that the pesticides, this is Axios, investigation ties pesticide use to cancer rates. It says Iowa has the nation's second highest cancer rate and is a heavy pesticide state, using 53 million pounds last year per Investigate Midwest. That's a big problem. And the actual good part of this story, if we can say there is a good part, is that there's activation at the political level. So we know the midterms are happening right now. They're moving in now to the 2028 elections, and our representatives and potential representatives are responding to this. Check out this article. It says pollution and cancer are on the ballot in Iowa. Candidates of both parties, so no matter who you vote for, you're probably going to win here if you don't like chemicals. Candidates of both parties for governor and for Secretary of Agriculture have included among their campaign priorities Iowa's rising cancer incidence and the nitrate water contamination that may well be responsible. For the first time, the health and environmental damage from farming has moved from the margins to the apex of political priorities in Iowa, an agricultural colossus that is the nation's largest grain and pork producer. So people can't ignore this anymore. In fact, in order to get elected, they're going to have to answer these questions. People will not let them off the hook. They will be the minority if they don't answer these questions. Not us anymore, and not these topics. So this is an exciting piece because the politicians are following the lead of the people. So I want to talk about another crop chemical here, atrazine. It's been around much longer than glyphosate. It's being sprayed everywhere. It's been sprayed everywhere. It's banned in a lot of other countries except the United States. And something just happened at the end of 2025. We have the WHO's Cancer Research Agency, their International Agency for Research on Cancer, IARC, and they basically labeled atrazine a group 2A. That means it probably causes, probably causes cancer. It's carcinogenic to humans, cancer-causing in humans. Well, that's a big deal. Those were headlines. What did the EPA have to say? Because they allow it in this country. The EPA, well, they dismissed the new cancer warning on atrazine, and they echoed Syngenta's criticisms. Syngenta makes atrazine. The EPA was a mouthpiece for Syngenta in this case. They defended it using their talking point, Syngenta. Well, unfortunately for them, we have somebody named Brent Wisner. He is, I guess, if you want to say, the Aaron Siri of crop chemical litigation against these companies. He was at the People vs. Poison rally in Washington, D.C. on the Supreme Court steps. Listen to what he had to say.
The courthouse, the courtroom, a jury, is one of the few places that you can humble the most powerful, the most controlling organizations in the world. In 2018, when we brought Monsanto into that courtroom, and we showed 12 jurors the science, the Monsanto papers, when we showed them the truth, they brought this company to its knees.
Yeah.
That is the power of the courthouse. And today, this court is deciding whether or not those doors are shut. Because if they decide in Monsanto's favor, they are telling every single person in this country, you do not get access to justice. You do not get a right to have the truth be heard. You do not get your constitutional privilege to have a trial by jury. And what do we have? We have a democracy that's run by corporations. That is what's at stake here. And today, with us together, we have a chance to make sure our voices are heard. If we want to protect our democracy, I don't care if you're left or you're right, I don't care if you're up or you're down. If you want to protect our country, you have to make sure those courtrooms stay open. So today, let's hold them to it. Let's win! Come on!
That makes me happy to see because here's the reality. Syngenta should be shaking in their boots right now. They should be terrified because Brent Wisner, they didn't just push over the first domino, they kicked the first domino over to start the effect on glyphosate and nearly destroy Bayer as a company. They were called the worst takeover of Monsanto, the worst corporate takeover ever. It's the worst decision because of Brent Wisner and because of his work securing a legal win with Dwayne Johnson. He was a groundskeeper who he got cancer from using this product, and they ruled in his favor. He won millions, but that started off litigation across the entire country that Bayer is begging the Supreme Court to make it stop because their company is on the ropes. They've lost market share, and now Syngenta is in the mix. Syngenta's targeted. Here's the latest press release from Wisner-Baum. It says, Wisner-Baum investigates Syngenta amid renewed questions over atrazine safety. It says, Wisner-Baum attorneys investigating potential claims say farm workers, pesticide applicators, and rural families may have been exposed for decades without adequate safety warnings. Then they quote one of the lead attorneys there. He says, what makes atrazine especially alarming is the scale and duration of exposure, Loringer said. This is not an isolated chemical confined to industrial settings. It has been detected in drinking water sources and agricultural communities across the country for decades. So unlike glyphosate, atrazine is a low-hanging fruit. It's a target-rich environment for lawyers. So if the EPA were waiting for them to reassess atrazine, hopefully they come up with a little different thing than safe and effective. But if they don't, there is an army of lawyers that is going to descend upon this company and get justice for the people that have been harmed by this. So a great move. We have Paxton, great move with Paxton, great move in Iowa. This is an exciting piece on the crop chemical time. People are going to get justice. Now, I want to talk about justice because that's something we are very, very passionate and focused about here on the HighWire and through our legal arm, ICANN. We have Aaron Series' excellent work over the years, one of the most successful medical freedom, informed consent lawyers really of all time, in my opinion. We have our newest legal update. And we have these every week. Our lawyers never stop. Every week we have one of these to bring to you. This recent one, ICANN presses FDA to fix pharma direct-to-consumer advertising. I'm going to read this and then break it down. It says, on behalf of Informed Consent Action Network, we write to request that existing regulation that permits advertising prescription products directly to consumers, DTC advertising, be amended to require disclosure of the risks of the product in each advertisement. Other than New Zealand, the United States is reported to be the only developed country that permits DTC advertising. The American Medical Association has even called for a ban on DTC advertising because, among other reasons, it fuels escalating drug prices and inflates demands for new and more expensive drugs that are equally or even less effective than existing drugs. At the least, the FDA should require that DTC advertising for all drugs, biologics, and medical devices fairly and equally disclose all risks along with any benefits related to the product. The FDA, here's the key part. The FDA can effect this change within existing regulatory authority by amending 21 CFR subsection 202.1, titled Prescription Drug. You get the idea. So what we're doing here, a lot of people, when they first see this, they say, wait a minute, I thought Kennedy just fixed that. I thought that was over. Kennedy started that in 2021. And if you realize, the entire upper echelon of the FDA has been wiped out. They've been gone. They're gone. They've been fired. They walked away. They've been let go, whatever you want to call them. So this petition to the FDA finishes the job. It closes the loopholes that were started, finishes the job that was started in 2025 by Kennedy and by the FDA. It's asking them, it actually gives model language. It says here, you don't have to change anything. Just take this language and use it. We're doing their job for them. And it's asking them to present the benefits and the risks equally. And not just the major risks, all of the risks. So we have full informed consent. We stick to our mission statement here at the Informed Consent Action Network.